They wanted to buy another fucking rival grocery chain and expand their operation. And now they're talking about leaving New York City. They are not doing that, okay? They are not fucking doing that. By the way, the embattled rival grocery chain, Fairway Market, has had numerous bankruptcies at this point. They've had numerous bankruptcies since then. 2017 is when they wanted to buy it. In 2020, they also were bankrupt, the rival grocery chain that they're talking about. In the wake of Fairway's bankruptcy, there's been one looming figure making a mess out of grocery stores, private equity. Clean up on aisle 11. Private equity's role in grocery store bankruptcies. Okay? They bankrupt almost because they can't do business margins, by the way. No, the reason why they get fucking almost bankrupt or on the verge of insolvency is because they are operating with fucking business mindset. They want to make money. There's also tremendous competition from the likes of Amazon. State-run grocery stores would not have the same exact issues because they're not supposed to be run with the profit incentive in mind. We put out feelers that we had interest before they went bankrupt and after. Katsimatides told the Post, I've been in the food business for 50 years. Yeah, this is him. John Katsimatides. Like, the reason why Zohran wants to have potentially state-run grocery stores is quite literally because he's making the argument that we shouldn't be at the mercy of profit seekers, man. That's the whole point. This is the visage of a grocery capitalist, vindicates every 19th century political cartoonist. Yeah. Gristedes owner found liable for unpaid wages. He looks like a fucking cartoon character, dude. Stop the Greek hate. Okay, chill.
Very familiar with him. He said this on Election Day, quote, if the city of New York is going socialist, I will definitely close or sell or move or franchise the Gristedes locations. In order to run New York City successfully as mayor, do you not need the support of a billionaire businessman like John Catsimatidis?
I don't know if I need his support specifically.
I actually haven't figured out why they, not to give him more talking points, but the real talking point that they should be fucking slamming is that market competition will eviscerate. State-run grocery stores would create market competition that is impossible to fucking contend with and eviscerate mom and pop shops. That's the real meta. That's what they should be saying, okay? Not to give the fucking billionaire psychopaths more talking points, but that is unironically what they should be saying at a time when there's unprecedented competition coming from monopolists like Amazon, okay? We're already having a hard time dealing with we're already having a hard time keeping these grocery stores open. And then this guy wants to create additional pressure to lower wages and lower prices. But even if we were to be able to carry on with our business, the mom and pop shops will definitely close down. Something like that.
But I want to make clear that my vision for this city is a vision for every single New Yorker, including business leaders across the city. And the reason I say that is that my proposals, even the ones to increase the top corporate tax rate of New York to match that of New Jersey, are ones that would also benefit those business leaders. Because when I have
always given free game, you would be a profitable and effective grifter. I know. Sometimes I like to give game out for free just so people know that I got that dog in me, okay? I could so easily be a fucking right-wing grifter. I could be the best right-wing grifter, okay? Now do the counterpoint to that. The counterpoint to that is that mom and pop shops have already been eviscerated by the fucking monopolists, and this actually drives down prices for the monopolists, and that's precisely why they're using the supposed mom and pop shop that doesn't fucking exist anymore in the state of New York by holding the carcass of mom and pop shops in New York to fucking make a counterpoint when it doesn't even exist due to the monopolist franchises that have overtaken the entire city and create food deserts, and it's at the mercy of venture capital and people's profit incentives. People's access to food should not be dictated by some faceless, lifeless corporate entity that is simply just trying to make additional money off of purchasing a bunch of these stores and then immediately bankrupting them so that some fucking hedge fund manager can turn profit year over year. The response is this. It's 5 grocery stores in this square.
Some of the things I've heard that are part of your platform are rent freeze.
Yep.
200,000 new affordable homes to build.
There we go.
$30 minimum wage by 2030. Free buses. And then city-owned grocery stores. I'm just wondering, because obviously, like, politicians are liars. So
True.
how can we trust that these things are achievable?
So these are all things that are a question of political will. Because most politicians will try and tell us that anytime you want to stand up for working class people, it's unrealistic. And when we're talking about a rent freeze, Bill de Blasio did that 3 times. There's precedence for that. When we're talking about city-run grocery stores, that pilot program, which would guarantee lower prices for milk, for eggs, for bread, for the staples of day-to-day life, would cost $60 million. The city is currently set to spend more than $140 million to give it to corporate supermarkets. So this would be a fraction of what we're already set to spend. When we're talking about free buses and universal childcare, that is something that we could pay for entirely by raising New York State's corporate tax rate to match the socialist utopia of New Jersey. So that's 7.25% here to 11.5% there. 200,000 affordable homes. We can pay for this by municipal bonding. We can pay for this by using vouchers that landlords are rejecting for New Yorkers that have already been approved. We can pay for this by using vacant city lots that we have. And we're already paying for this in some way because our refusal to build actually affordable housing, like for a family of 4 making $72K a year, for a low-income senior, for one of the 100,000 New Yorkers living in shelters, it is pushing working class people outside of the city. It is pushing them into tax bases of New Jersey and Pennsylvania. We need to stop doing that and actually keep people in the city they call.
Yeah. And if it fails, then it's $60 million, which is a fucking blip. $60 million gets lost to the nephew of some prominent politician that has a private contract that they got through corruption in the state of New York and in the city of New York with regular fucking frequency. There's already a living, breathing example of this happening in other states anyway. And this is so funny. What will happen is empty shelves due to a rise in demand in Zoran's popularity. In normal market conditions, this will lead to a raise the price according to demand. However, because a government store doesn't operate in a market environment and puts prices below market value, the stores will quickly run out of stock, and empty shelves and long lines will ensue. This happens in command economies all the time. I study economics in uni, by the way. Okay, so it'll be successful, is what you're saying. It'll be incredibly successful and people will purchase it. It's not like it's going to fucking literally eviscerate the existing grocery store chains. It's simply going to work as intended. You didn't even describe why this would be bad. You did not even describe why this would collapse anything. What you described is poor people will have easier access to food. That's what you described as a bad thing, because that is the outcome of what you're talking about. The outcome of what you're talking about is people in these neighborhoods will be able to get cheaper groceries. Okay? Then the people with money will go elsewhere, will be fed up and stop going and clogging it up for the people who need it. There are major advantages to an enterprise that is not run. There are major advantages to an enterprise that's not run at the behest of the profit motive. Those who are quick enough will get the food. Others, the majority, will not. Dude, first of all, the argument that you're making, unironically, is an argument to make all the fucking grocery stores state run, for the record. You understand that, right? So that this issue does not exist. Because there are a shit ton of other grocery stores that people will go and get their goods from. It's just the prices will be higher. Okay? So unless you're advocating for a command economy where all of the fucking grocery stores are run by the state, I don't know why you're even bringing this up, because this doesn't actually destroy the rest of the grocery stores in the region. The others will start getting even more priced out. How? You're not making an argument. Even using like Econ 101 terms, you're not making an argument as to how the others will start getting more priced out. Here, I'll make the argument for you. Because these fucking bargain bin prices that are impossible to compete against, it will actually force other grocery stores that are privately owned to lower their prices in order to be competitive. Okay? That's the argument you're supposed to make. You're not even making that argument. You're just saying, "Oh, the others will start getting even more priced out, and then they'll raise their prices for no reason." Like, what are you talking about? Also, you're making it seem as though the state-run grocery stores don't exist. The commissary structure in the United States military already exists. It's a thing that works, okay? Last I checked, the real thing that prices out people, or the real thing that fucking eviscerates and guts local grocery stores, mom and pop shops, is not actually government-run grocery stores. It's actually fucking Walmart. Okay? This, unironically, is a way to try and combat against Walmart. It's a way to try and combat against the massive grocery stores. The difference between a state-run enterprise like this as opposed to Walmart, however, is that Walmart comes in with much cheaper prices. Walmart also will hire a bunch of people. It's more efficient, and then it will suck up the entire demand in the region. And then once it's no longer profitable, as they have done so in West Virginia, for example, they'll fuck off. Do you understand? And then now you have an area where there's no business anymore. Now you've created a fucking food desert. State-run enterprises, on the other hand, have a duty to offer these things, to offer these goods, to offer these commodities to their citizens, and therefore will not go away. If what you're saying was true, then food banks would destroy the grocery stores. So Walmart is better in real competition than the mom and pop shops, I guess. What? Walmart is better in terms of competing against mom and pop shops? Yes, just like Amazon is better than all of the other alternatives, and they are the reason why these chain stores have become monopolies. Walmart is the reason why you don't have local mom and pop shops anymore. Yes. The issue, however, is that when Walmart with its low profit margins, decides, and its heavy government subsidies, by the way, because Walmart is one of the most subsidized, enterprises, perhaps around the fucking world, that is privately owned and not owned by the government directly. Okay, when Walmart, even after all of that, when Walmart decides I'm not making enough money, they just fucking drop it. They just end that chain. They end their franchise. They end their operations in the region, leaving that region with no fucking alternative. The most efficient wins, fair and square. If they raise prices, the cheaper alternatives will slowly appear and start to drive them away. Competition. That's so interesting that you say that. Except, why doesn't it happen in West Virginia? Why has that not happened in West Virginia? Okay? Again, this is the problem with econ majors who, once again, look at just numbers on a fucking board and widgets at a widget factory and assume that the market choice is, or the market moves in a rational way. And yet, when faced with the reality that things don't actually just materialize out of thin air in the way that your textbook told you to do so, you all of a sudden turn around and go, I don't get it. I guess we shouldn't even talk about that. You're running off of pure idealism. I am suggesting a pragmatic solution. One that also, even if it doesn't, the government shouldn't be involved in subsidizing shops at all. No subsidizing Walmart. I know, dude. Okay. Okay, Friedman. That's not how that works, though, does it? What do you mean? Libertarian motherfucker. I swear to God. Yeah, that would be great. I also would not. I also would love to live in that world. The job of the government is to uphold free market competition in a civil way. No, it's not. You are a fucking neoliberal without even realizing that you are a fucking neoliberal. This mentality is precisely the reason why the government does subsidize Walmart. This is the outcome. The job of the government is to uphold free competition. Okay? And that's precisely what's going on. The government has been upholding free competition, and this is the outcome. The outcome is Walmart. Everything inevitably turns into a monopoly, okay? Or if it's not a monopoly, it's at the very least an oligopoly, which creates an environment where price fixing is the norm through price leadership, which is the legal method of price fixing. Price fixing is illegal. Price leadership is very legal. When you have tremendous corporate consolidation, you create an environment that's ripe for price leadership. Price leadership, when you're at the point of the consumer, is the same as price fixing. It doesn't matter, okay? When you are going out and purchasing eggs and eggs and milk, you don't think, well, at least this was done through the legal route of price leadership. Okay? So if monopolies are going to happen, I would rather have the interests of the population in mind rather than the interests of a couple faceless, lifeless capital owners in mind. You are arguing about a fantasy while simultaneously saying we need candidates to do that. And then you're literally getting mad at the one candidate who is trying to do that and turning around and saying, no, not like this. Subsidizing one side but not the other is not fair competition, and that is what's happening right now and is not good. But socialism will lead to deficit. That's not the way out. Should be anti-monopoly. Brother, there is no planet. Your worldview is inevitably distorted, okay? Because capitalism inevitably yields monopoly. Every single company's ultimate goal is to become a market leader. There is Scandinavia. Oh my God. Oh my God. Why are Econ 101 guys so fucking oblivious? State-run grocery stores, Norway. 3 companies have 90% of the grocery store market in Sweden. Dude, even the Nobel Prize winner said that social democracies and not socialism are the way forward, and that means capitalism. Show them the Pakistani military government run. We have government run grocery stores. It's the fucking military. Okay? Nordic socialism is realer than you think. When policy commentators talk about Nordic economies, they tend to focus on their comprehensive welfare states, and for good reason. Denmark, Finland, Norway, and Sweden are home to some of the most generous welfare systems in the world. Each has efficient single-payer healthcare system, free college, long parental leave, heavily subsidized childcare, and many other social benefits too numerous to list here. What is this? Public grocery stores. Oh yeah, there's there was one in Florida. This is also before we factor in that there is a monopoly, state-run monopoly on liquor stores, both I believe in Kansas and other states in the country, but also even in Scandinavian nations as well. Outsized attention they receive can sometimes lead to commentators in the wrong conclusions about peculiars of Pennsylvania too and Utah. Oops.
Twain.
The common thread to these mistaken conclusions aside from the desired labor market, this is not true. In addition to large welfare states and high tax levels, Nordic economies are also home to large public sectors, strong job protections, and labor markets governed by centralized union contracts. Around 1 in 3 workers in Denmark and Norway are employed by the government. Protections against termination by employers are much stronger in Nordic countries. Centrally bargained union contracts establish the work rules and pay scales for the vast majority of Nordic workers. These labor market characteristics are hardly neoliberal or quasi-libertarian, at least if we stick to the typical definitions of those terms. The neoliberal tendency, as exemplified by most recently by France's Emmanuel Macron, is to cut public sector jobs, reduce job protections, and push for local rather than centralized labor agreements. For the U.S. labor market to become more like the Nordics, it would have to move in the opposite direction on all those fronts. State ownership, even more interesting than Nordic labor market, is institutions as Nordic state ownership. Collective ownership over capital is the hallmark of that old school socialism that is supposed to have been entirely discredited. And yet, such public ownership figures prominently in the present day in Norway and Finland, and has had a role in the other 2 Nordic countries as well, especially in Sweden, where the government embarked upon a now defunct plan to socialize the whole of the Swedish industry into wage earner funds just a few decades ago. The governments in Norway and Finland own financial assets equal to 330% and 130% of each country's respective GDP. In the U.S., the same figure is just 26%. Much of this money is tied up in diversified wealth funds, which some would object to as not counting as real estate ownership. I disagree with that claim, as that wealth funds are not really state ownership, but the observation that Nordic countries feature high levels of state ownership does not turn upon this quibble. State-owned enterprises, defined as commercial enterprises in which the state has a controlling stake or a large minority stake, are also far more prevalent in Nordic countries. There are all of these things, this is from 2017, and one of the biggest problems in Scandinavian countries is that this is also going away. This is the problem with social democracies in general, which is that capital interests inevitably overtake all of these state-owned enterprises and turn them into for-profit privatized entities. All of these countries are privatizing at an alarming rate. And because they're privatizing at an alarming rate, a lot of the previously well-run public institutions, state-owned enterprises, are no longer offering the same quality of service. This is the problem with social democracies, that a Thatcherite move could inevitably move in the direction of gutting these social safety nets that many people took for granted, This obviously leads to people feeling animosity, anxiety, anger, resentment over their material conditions worsening. And when that happens, you have volatility. And that volatility is redirected back to vulnerable populations such as migrants or refugees in these countries. The notion that, well, more brown people started arriving, and that's the reason why my fucking, state-funded healthcare doesn't work as well as it used to. Yes, the goal here is to solve a market inefficiency, food deserts in New York City. If you believe, first of all, you're talking about how, social democracies are the answer while you're literally fucking getting mad at a dude offering a social democratic provision. So clearly you don't want social democracy, because nothing that Zoran is pushing for is is unheard of. Many of the things that Zoran is pushing for is unironically things that already exist. So it seems to me like you don't want to move in the direction of social democracy. Because a lot of the places that you consider to be social democracies that you point to as like successful versions of capitalism are, one, failing due to capitalism right now, due to the interests of capital right now. And they're experiencing that exact same volatility, instability, and anger being redirected back to refugees, migrants, and the like in these places. And you're also simultaneously pointing to a candidate that is trying to move in that direction, and you're stating that that is wrong. So it doesn't seem like you want that to happen. You don't want state intervention while simultaneously saying we want state intervention. So which is it? Do you want state intervention, or is it not like that? Also, the current government will want to go away from the central work terms negotiated by the unions and work towards the local deals model. Finland has basically had austerity measures since Nokia fell as a phone manufacturer. There's theories about the CEO being a Microsoft agent. In every government we have just defunds education, healthcare, etc., no matter right or left. However, right-wing governments do it much more. Yeah. I mean, we are living in an era where the fall of neoliberalism is imminent. It's already happening. It's happening all around us. Okay. All of these social democracies that you could point to will be regarded as like overwhelming failures unless they change their attitude and move back in the direction of socialism. Okay. Finland is literally the happiest country in the world right now. Okay, but you, dude. First of all, you're pointing to Zoran Mamdani calling himself a socialist without looking at his actual policies. Okay, at the end of the day, he will try to fight capitalism instead of improving our understanding of it. And then you literally look to countries that have actually had long, hard-fought socialist implementation that also had the exact same kind of fucking naysayers at the time. Like, those things did not happen because it was just like purely social democrats. Those things happened because social democrats, especially in Scandinavian countries, were propped up and backed to a certain degree by socialists, democratic socialists, straight up socialists, trade unionists. Okay. It was a collective effort to get these kinds of, and each country is different, but it was a collective effort to get these kinds of initiatives implemented. So it is exactly like a Zoran Mamdani style candidacy that created these initiatives. So much more, by the way, so much more consequential than like a fucking state-run grocery store, mind you. Like, we're talking about the entire nationalization of the extraction industry, okay? You fucking point to Norway. Do you understand that the entirety of the Norwegian extraction industry, from the fucking oil down to the forests, is nationalized? Zoran Mamdani looks like a fucking rugged capitalist in comparison to an already implemented initiative in a state like Norway that you would point to as a very successful state. That's communism, I guess. That's not even socialism, it's communism. That's Maoism. How'd that happen? Our number one source of electricity is state and county-owned hydropower system. Sweet here. Our social democratic governments are also working on every public service making profits and therefore slashing budgets and shitting public transport, hospitals, and elder care. So even social democracy is garbanzo on its citizens, just not as garbanzo as the U.S. Exactly. And the more it gets to U.S. levels of garbanzo, the worse it will get, the more angry people will get. I think we understand capitalism quite well. Well, competition is good in politics, I guess, too. Oh my God. Okay, then don't stand in the way of like the one force in the country that is like pushing the needle in the appropriate direction. That's why you don't see me punching left regardless. And Zoran is not to the left of me anyway, but the real reason why private grocery stores fight back tooth and nail against state-owned enterprises is specifically because state-owned enterprises will actually create a depressive force against the monopolies that dominate the fucking sphere, the oligopoly that so easily can maintain greedflation, increase prices, through a series of decisions known as price leadership.
Buses are fast and free. Minimum wage is literally $30 an hour, and all of their public schools are powered by renewable energy. They have these vibrant green spaces and these resilience hubs that provide all of these resources and safe spaces during emergencies. Oh, and every kid under 5 has access to free universal childcare. You can shop at these city-funded grocery stores that focus on keeping prices low instead of making a profit. So you buy groceries at wholesale prices. Eggs aren't $13 anymore. Okay, last thing. There's a rent freeze across the entire city.
Sounds like a fantasy, right? But New York, I'm talking about us. We have the opportunity to turn that fantasy into a reality for all.
I have a hardcore capitalist cousin in California just nutso about Mamdani over in New York. How do I shut him the fuck up? As an assemblyman, I think he tried to introduce new free bus routes in New York City and now had a very mixed reception and was discontinued. That's literally not true. He did get a fucking free bus pilot program that was so popular in its implement. That is the exact opposite. Why are you making shit up? You are just saying the opposite of the truth now. It literally not only worked, but it was also incredibly successful. Anyway, back to Zoran. How do you think empty shelves and overcrowded buses will benefit the popularity of his candidacy? Overcrowded buses and empty shelves. Okay, man, don't worry about it, okay? Then don't fucking worry about it. Overcrowded buses, he said. Dude, the average econ 101 understander turns into this like fucking rabid sociopath the moment that there is like modest social democratic reforms that might be imminent. And it's ironic because then they will, as a defensive mechanism, turn around and point to the fucking modest social democratic reforms that exist in other countries while simultaneously stopping us from getting it. Holy fuck. Yeah, what if the people are too well fed? What if the buses are working? That would be terrible. Let me guess where they heard it. Oh, from fucking New York Post. Zohran Mamdani's lousy negotiating skills killed free New York City bus program, Eric Adams says. Oh, wow. That's crazy. I guess the guy currently running against Zohran Mamdani, who has every reason to fucking lie, took a successful initiative that he offered to Zohran, who fought hard for this initiative as a state assemblyman, is now turning around and being like, "Oh yeah, the trial ended, and we discontinued it, but also it was a failure because of Zohran Mamdani." Well, great. Now that he's mayor, he can actually do it. All right. Yeah, it was a resounding success. Now that Eric Adams is a MAGA enthusiast, he's using the MAGA playbook, openly lying. Zohran Mamdani and I got free buses done despite Adams, who broke the law requiring more bus lanes and blocked the Fordham Road busway. There's your real snake oil salesman. One of the funniest parts about being a leftist or a socialist is constantly advocating to better society and constantly having to deal with people who are like, better things are not possible. How fucking dare you shut the fuck up? And then they unironically will sometimes point to other places where they have these things implemented and will go, see, why can't we be like that? It's like, bro, we can't be like that because you're trying to stop us from being like that, while simultaneously pointing to that over there as a good reason, as a good example, a good alternative. Don't worry, okay? We'll fucking drag you kicking and screaming to more affordable grocery prices and fucking free buses. You'll fucking kick, you'll scream every step of the way. You say, how can this be done? And then you'll get on the fucking free bus. If you even live in New York, you probably don't anyway, so it doesn't even fucking matter to you. But one day you'll take advantage of it. You'll be like, no, I don't want free healthcare. This can never be done. This can never be done. And then you'll go to the hospital and you won't have to fucking pay $6,000 for the ambulance. And you'll be like, oh, I hate this. It's so nutty having to deal with this kind of idiocy. It's funny because, like, this clearly is a demonstrable failure, right? Neoliberalism has been a demonstrable failure. People are experiencing tremendous pressures, so much so that even a country that is the wealthiest nation on the planet, that is the number one most capitalist country on the fucking planet, can have its finance capital be run by potentially a socialist. Like, that doesn't tell you that people, if that doesn't tell you that people are looking for an alternative vision, I don't know what to tell you. Okay? What the fuck do you mean? It is years and years of people going, no, that alternative is scary, that has led to this unprecedented level of income and wealth inequality in this country. It's a fucking massive failure. Finally, a guy actually does the right thing, runs for office, and is unyielding. People like the policies, and motherfuckers are turning around and going, nah. You know that dumbass would have been against the interstate highway system under Eisenhower, improving infrastructure and food access? Like, yeah, those farmers and all those businesses who can now work or show up on time will certainly complain. Yeah, they don't understand that there are always spoilers every step of the way. There's never been a fucking moment in American history where someone just came out and was like, I'm going to do this thing. And then everyone was like, we love it. FDR almost got fucking assassinated, dog. We're still eating off of the New Deal to this day. The fact that we even have an infrastructure is thankfully because of his fucking initiatives. And our infrastructure is crippling. But luckily, the skeletons of it still fucking remain because they did that shit. And at the time, business owners wanted to fucking kill him for wanting to do that shit. Okay? It's insane.
Conversations with them, what I also hear is the just how expensive this city is preventing them from attracting and retaining the talent they need to grow their business. And ultimately, I'm looking forward to having those meetings, having those sit downs to make clear why this vision would benefit all.
We went on your website and realized there's a policy proposal that says your plan, and I'm going to quote it for folks, is to shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. Explain why you are bringing race into your tax proposal.
Oh my God.
That is just a description of what we see right now. It's not driven by race. It's more of an assessment of what neighborhoods are being undertaxed versus overtaxed. We've seen time and again that this is a property tax system that is inequitable. It's one that actually Eric Adams ran on saying that he would change in the first 100 days. He's since sought to defend it and lost at every juncture in court.
And I understand you're saying we're simply describing the types of neighborhoods that would see these increase in taxes, and yet by invoking race, do you run the risk of potential?
Oh, God, I hate this. Just be like, listen, this has nothing to do with race, okay? It has nothing to do with race. No part of his fucking campaign is actually advocated for, like, racial division or racial tension. It is just the demographic makeup of the areas that are wealthier. That's it. And he did do that. He already said this. He already fucking said that, but it doesn't matter. She's like, nope, don't care. I'm going to fucking keep hammering cynically against you.
Alienating key constituents.
I think I'm just naming things as they are. And
also, white people voted for him. Yo, Zoran, don't back down. Tell her how white people love you, okay? That's right. White men. White men powered his candidacy, okay? Be like, listen, clearly they don't give a fuck because they're not living in the richer and whiter neighborhoods, it seems, okay? That's right. Just talk to them. Tell them how it is. Tell him it's white jihad summer, okay? White boy jihad summer, baby.
And ultimately, the thing that motivates me in this is to create a system of fairness. It is not to work backwards from a racial assessment of neighborhoods or our city. Rather, it's to ensure that we actually have an equal playing field. And right now, what we see with the property tax system is one that is overtaxing a number of New Yorkers and undertaxing others.
I don't think he will focus on the white base because he's trying to foray the black vote, I think the black vote is not even the black vote. The black vote that we're talking about is specifically the Democratic Party, the resilient Democratic base that listens to the turnout machine. Okay, it's not even the black vote necessarily. It's the boomer vote. Okay, it's the older Democrats. It's older black folk in general, and they won't. I don't think they'll vote for anyone but the Democratic ticket. The unks and the aunties will be straight ticket Democrats. They straight ticket Democrat vote. Okay, I would be shocked if they would go for Eric Adams or even Andrew Cuomo because neither is on the Dem line.
Others and an inability of political will to resolve that.
So no plans to change that language on your website.
The focus here is to actually ensure a fair property tax system, and that the use of that language is just an assessment of the neighborhood.
All right. You are a self-described democratic socialist. Do you think that billionaires have a right to exist?
I don't think that we should have billionaires because, frankly, it is so much money in a moment of such inequality. And ultimately, what we need more of is equality across our city and across our state and across our country. And I look forward.
By the way, that's, again, perfect fucking response. And also an incredibly popular position. Let me tell you something, okay? Americans have serf mindset. they think like, oh, one day I'll be a billionaire. One day I'll be a millionaire, they say, right? But even Americans who are like, one day I'll be fucking super rich, even they kind of understand that like this billionaire shit's gotten out of control. This doesn't mean that you're gonna fucking, make a new system where there's no billionaires. It's not gonna happen. Fucking China has billionaires, okay? As a matter of fact, more billionaires than we do. So I think saying yes to that isn't necessarily a bad thing at all. It's not. Nobody likes billionaires. Everybody understands that they contribute to tremendous income and wealth disparity in this country.
Forward to work with everyone, including billionaires, to make a city that is fairer for all of them.
Well, let me ask you about what Donald Trump,
the lib whisperer, is making the fucking Vox.com article heads and the fucking media, the Mediaite people into socialists at this point. Mamdani on Trump calling him a communist. I've already started to get used to the fact that the president will talk about how I look, how I sound, where I'm from, who I am, ultimately because he wants to distract from what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for the very working people that he ran a campaign to empower that he has since betrayed. Oh, yeah, this was funny. I saw this. Dudes who make $32K a year reading this. Zohran Mamdani, I don't think that we should have billionaires. We need billionaires. Every blue check mark. Every dude who makes $32K a year saw that statement and fell to their knees at Walmart, where they work, actually. Yeah, he's not going to win the ideologically dug-in free market conservatives. He'll win the populist voters who kind of get the vibe that this billionaire shit's a little messed up and something should be done. Yeah. Fell to my knees at Cricket Wireless, where I currently work at. Oh, Jesus Christ. But I was going to be a billionaire any day now.
President of the United States has had a lot to say about your campaign. He called you a communist. Because he's the president, I want to give you a chance to respond directly to him. How do you respond? Are you a communist?
No, I am not. And I have already had to start to get used to the fact that the president will talk about how I look, how I sound, where I'm from, who I am, ultimately because he wants to distract from what I'm fighting for. And I'm fighting for the very working people that he ran a campaign to empower that he has since then betrayed. And when we talk about my politics,
why would black people have to vote for him, though? What do you mean, have to? We're talking about a very specific demographic of voters. We're talking about older. We're talking about the boomer black vote, okay? The boomer black vote is one of the most reliable Democrat Party voting bloc out there. My speculation, my assumption is that they will go straight ticket them in the general race. And who's the Democratic candidate? Zohran Mamdani.
I call myself a democratic socialist in many ways inspired by the words of Dr. King from decades ago, who said, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism. There has to be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country. And as income inequality has declined nationwide, it has increased in New York City. And ultimately, what we need is a city where every single person can thrive.
All right. Stay right there. We are going to take a quick break. More of our exclusive.
What? Zorsan is a snake. All hail the commies. Don't show the TikTok marks as this. Dude. Why would you ever in a fucking million years care about that? Please stop, okay? Anyway, here is the Pod Johns kind of turning heel here, okay? This is impactful because I feel like a lot of the DNC consulting class does take their notes from these guys. They are very much, and they might get mad at me for saying this, but they are very much a part of the establishment. They are the establishment. So let's hear what they have to say.
Donald Trump tried to steal the last election. When he failed, fomented a violent insurrection against the Capitol. Cops were brutally assaulted. They tried to kill members of Congress and his own vice president. He then wins the election, pardons the people who violently assaulted cops. And what we've had, at least at the...
It's wild. Dude, look. No, dude, don't say still on January 6th. It is a wild thing that January 6th was successful. Okay? Come on. You don't have to be a liberal to look at that and maybe not even feel a little bit jealous. Okay? Because it was successful. January 6th was a success. It didn't work to actually stop the process, this otherwise symbolic like vote certification process, and then implement Donald Trump as the actual rightful leader of the throne. It was also very funny. But the reality that he was able to do this and then not withstand significant penalties and then win the election and then turn around and pardon all of these people is pretty fucking impressive. Okay? It's also insane. It's insane that like America broadly looked at that and was like, that is the appetite I have for destroying these institutions. There's a lesson to be learned from that.
The beginning of the administration is some Democrats being like, I'll work with them where it makes sense. I'll vote for some of his nominees where they're good. And then now we're like, oh, but if it's the mayor of New York City who wants to give people free buses and rent control and has said that he doesn't know if he's going to police the term globalize the intifada, even though he doesn't use it, which is admittedly a dumb answer. But for him,
I don't think it's a dumb answer.
We're going to say absolutely not. This is very concerning. I can't do it. But for Donald fucking Trump, be like, well, I'll work with them where I can.
If you are more concerned about a Democratic socialist in City Hall than a fascist in the White House, you're not living in the right times.
At least they bring it back. Yeah, it's wild that Eric Adams won the Democratic primary in 2021 by 0.7%, and the consultant and leadership class were saying things like this about him. Interesting that when Zoran wins by 18%, they're skeptical, almost like there is an ideology underpinning their objective analysis. It's probably foolish to think a New York City mayor will successfully translate into being a national political figure, but I still think Eric Adams would be in my top 5 for who will be the next Democratic presidential nominee after Joe Biden. This was Nate Bronze. How long before Fox News unironically says this? Mamdani set to deny billionaires of their biblical homeland of Manhattan. I mean, they are kind of saying that. They're kind of saying that right now. They're implying it. And it's not just Fox News that's saying that. It's fucking liberals that are saying that too.
Conversation with Zoran Mamdani when we come right back. Stay with us. We are back here live in New York with State Assemblyman and the presumptive Democratic nominee for mayor of New York, Zoran Mamdani. Thank you so much for sticking around for more questions. Let's talk about immigration, deportation. Are you committed to keeping New York as a sanctuary city?
Absolutely, because ultimately we've seen that this is a policy that has kept New Yorkers safe for decades. It's a policy that had previously been defended by Democrats and Republicans alike until the fear-mongering of this current mayor. And it's a policy that we've seen ensures that New Yorkers can get out of the shadows and into the full life of the city that they belong to. And it's one that I will be proud to stand up for.
Well, you know, the border czar, Tom Homan, has said that he is planning to deploy ICE agents to New York, worksite enforcement to essentially increase and enhance the number of ICE agents here. If that happens on your watch, how do you plan to handle it?
We have to stand up and fight back, and we haven't seen that from our current mayor, who has instead been working with the Trump administration to assist in their goal of building the single largest deportation force in American history. I mean, we saw ICE agents arrest a migrant at Federal Plaza, and then we saw NYPD officers arresting a pastor who was peacefully observing that arrest. Those days are going to come to an end when I'm the mayor. The NYPD's job is to create public safety in the city, not to assist ICE agents in their mission to attack the very fabric of this city.
I want to talk about the historic nature of your candidacy. If you were to win, you would become the first Muslim mayor of New York City. Along the way, throughout the course of this primary campaign, you have received death threats. You've received all sorts of attacks online. Congressman Andy Ogles called for you to be deported, for example, because you were born in Uganda. He also issued an Islamophobic epithet, which I am not going to repeat here. But what type of toll has this taken on you personally and on your family?
It's been difficult. It's been difficult to have to deal with the regular and repeated smears and slander upon.
By the way, we're going to step away from the Zohran Mamdani analysis in a little bit. Well, I'll ask him about Zohran Mamdani as well, but I'm going to have David Dayan on to talk about the big, beautiful bill, to talk about Zohran's victory, and to talk about the SCOTUS stuff as well. David Dayan of the American Prospect will be on in a little bit so that a lot of your confusion will be cleared up about everything that's happening.
And on the very basis of my faith. And I think what's so sad is that this is but a glimpse into what life is like for many Muslim New Yorkers and many New Yorkers of different faiths who are constantly being told that they don't belong in this city and in this country that they love. And ultimately, what continues to give me hope is that these moments are but small examples, something that goes against what so many New Yorkers actually feel. Because what we know is that this is a city for all of us. And what Tuesday night showed is that what New Yorkers want more than anything is a vision that binds us all together.
I want to ask you about an issue that has divided some New Yorkers in recent weeks. You were recently asked about the term globalize the intifada, if it makes you uncomfortable. In that moment, you did not condemn the phrase. Now, just so folks understand, it's a phrase that many people hear as a call to violence against Jews. There's been a lot of attention on this issue. So I want to give you an opportunity to respond here and now. Do you condemn that phrase?
Okay. Right on that note, I'm calling David Dayan. Okay. Hold on. We'll see what he had to say about the answer in a second. David, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, perfect. I can't see you for some reason.
I don't know why. What do I need to do here? Oh, turn on camera.
Boom.
Maybe that helps.
There it is.
There we
Perfect.
All right.
Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna turn off my camera. Just I mean, you can still see me, but I'm turning off my camera on my end so that. All right, perfect. David Dayan of the American Prospect is here, ladies and gentlemen. Longtime supporter of the show and everything I've ever said, right, David?
Absolutely.
Everything I've ever said
exactly
unquestioningly.
Right. What are you, Trump?
Yeah.
What's with this loyalty?
This is an ambush. Yeah, this is a loyalty pledge. David, I want to start off. I know that we're going to be talking about the big beautiful bill. I call it Big Booty Bill because his booty cheeks. But before we get to that, what are your thoughts about Zohran Mamdani? Because that's like currently the number one thing that everyone is talking about, and obviously for progressive media figures such as yourself, this was a fairly, this was a tremendous success, right? I feel like it definitely performed above my expectations for sure.
Well, he ran a great race. I happened to be in New York just before the election. And watching the media there, every single ad promoted that New York Times editorial that was essentially an anti-endorsement of Mamdani. And, the fact not only that he beat the big money, that he beat the establishment entrenchment of an Andrew Cuomo, but that he beat the liberal Bible of the New York Times, and that was not a factor in the race, shows what polls have already shown, which is that Democrats are fed up with their leaders, that they want to see a new style of leadership. They want to see a leadership that promises something real. And they're willing to buck the establishment in order to get it. And that's, I think, what we saw. And now I think the task for Mamdani, presuming he wins the general election, which I think he will, is that he has to go out and deliver. Because the way that he's gained trust with the electorate is that he's promised to do some very specific things. And now he has to pull those off. And I think he's going to get a lot of help from Brad Lander, who, as I